Scott is the Member of Parliament from Parry Sound, Muskoka. Of course, Parry Sound is home of Bobby Orr. Scott himself has put on the skates and is hoping to win the Conservative leadership. He's a two-term MP. He's a former mayor of Huntsville and recently was the Conservative Shadow Minister for Labour. And I want to tell a big, dirty secret that Seamus O'Regan thinks he's a pretty good critic, which I don't know if that'll help you, Scott, or not. Anyway, welcome to the program.
Tim, it's an honor to be here. Thank you so much.
Well, glad to have you. Give an audience a sense of who you are, your politics, and why you're interested in seeking the Conservative Party leadership.
Well, I grew up in small-town politics in Ontario. I was first elected to my local town council and the regional government when I was 21. And I tell everybody I didn't really know very much. I was just a punk kid. But I sure did grow up and learn a lot about public service and bringing people together and building consensus to try to get things done and always be moving my community forward. I learned a lot about social issues and needs in the community as well that I wasn't aware of before. And I recognize the role that government has to play in lifting people, out of difficult situations. And so I just worked my way up in the municipal politics. I was deputy mayor and then ultimately mayor of my community. And then the opportunity presented itself to run federally. And I was encouraged by a lot of folks in my community to take that next step. And when I got to Ottawa, I was pretty dismayed by the complete opposite of what goes on there compared to how it works in municipal government. But I just thought, you know what, you can't just sort of sit back and just complain about it. You got to roll up your sleeves and get involved. And so Seamus O'Regan is actually a good example of someone that I realized was in some ways a kindred spirit and a guy who was there for the right reasons, trying to get things done as well. And we've done a couple of things together now to try to move things forward and make lives better for federally regulated workers. And that's what I think we need to be doing more of in Ottawa. The partisan bickering is poisonous, and we don't listen to each other anymore, and that's hurting Canada.
Yeah, we're hearing a lot of that. Certainly that was the argument Justin Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh were making. We're hearing more of that here in Newfoundland and Labrador. So what does that look like in terms of your campaign approach? Ending or limiting partisan bickering, focusing on the issues that matter. So what does a Scott Aitchison campaign look like, and what are you focusing on that will help drive home that pursuit?
Well, the first thing about my campaign is it will be very positive. There'll be no negative attacks on any of the other candidates. I'm not interested in slinging mud at the Prime Minister or the leader of the NDP. I think that the most important thing you can do in a campaign is to talk about the ideas that you care about and be listening to Canadians, listening to Conservatives. So I intend to engage with as many people across the country and talk about the issues that people care about and propose solutions and engage with Conservatives and my caucus to make those ideas better. That's how you build consensus. And we're encouraging people to follow the campaign. VoteScott.ca is the campaign webpage, and we're encouraging people to follow us there and see what we're doing, because I think people are going to be really pleased with the campaign. It's going to be really refreshing, I think, not attacking anybody else, just proposing good ideas and talking about policies that are going to move all Canadians forward.
Well, I'll give you an opportunity to practice what you preach. A lot of your colleagues yesterday in the Conservative Party, including Candice Bergen, very strong language in condemning the Liberal New Democrat agreement. The boogeyman of the coalition has been brought out, as you know. I think one phrase I heard was the carbon tax coalition mandate, and a lot of concerns raised about what it all means. What's your take on it, knowing, if we can keep in the positive language frame of mind, it's Conservative, the NDP and the Liberals can configure in any way that they so want. I mean, they have to convince the public that this is in the interest of the public. What's your take on yesterday? What does it mean, and how might it impact the way you lead going forward?
Well, I think they've formalized something that's been going on since the last election. I mean, the NDP has supported this government. They continue to do so. There's no boogeyman in the room. I think that the biggest concern I have is this spending. I mean, we need to be conscious of how much debt we've accumulated. It's all of it necessary as a result of the pandemic, but we need to be more conscious of the debt. Inflation is indeed a global phenomenon right now, but it's exacerbated in Canada by heavy debt-financed government spending. And so I'm concerned about that. And frankly, all these programs that the federal government wants to get into and the NDP are, proposing, pharmacare, dental care, all lovely ideas. But the fact of the matter is, our healthcare system has been struggling and crying out for needed investment for decades. Keep in mind, we created this system back in the late 60s with the promise of paying 50% of the cost of the provinces and promptly never live up to the promise. So, you see decades of federal politicians meddling in provincial affairs to buy votes, when really what we should be doing is getting back to basics and giving the provinces what we promised them in the first place. And then the provinces could afford to run their departments and their divisions, and the federal government could get back to doing what it's supposed to do, making sure that things like, offshore oil projects, in the Flemish Basin are getting approved and done, and we're moving, Canadians forward, and we're making sure that, Canadians have good paying jobs and we're producing, ethical energy for a world that is crying out for it right now. And maybe making sure that, we don't play politics anymore with our military and procurement. We should focus on the things that the federal government was created by the provinces to do in the first place. And then, I think the entire country would be a lot better off.
You mentioned ethical energy. You'll know well that you come from a region also that has a lot of history as it relates to commodity production, natural resources, now tourism as well. Newfoundland, not unlike that. Tourism is big here, but equally so is the non-renewable natural resource sector. You talk about equitable energy. Where does Newfoundland's energy warehouse, as some have called it, fit in that from your perspective?
Oh, it's crucially important. Absolutely crucially important. I mean, there's no question there's been some stumbles with projects like the Lower Churchill project, for example. But I think, we've got to move forward. We've got to get the project done. I certainly think that it's, what the federal government has done to, buy an equity stake in the project and ensure that the project can get done is the right thing to do. We've got to move forward. You look at Nova Scotia. I mean, there's Nova Scotia Power doing some innovative things, but they still use a lot of coal. So, I mean, these are examples of how we can get our country off of these high carbon-based fuels for producing energy. It's an important part of the mix, and the work that Newfoundland is doing is important, and we need to support it.
Two last questions for you. First one is this, the obvious one. How do you win, Scott? And not to be insulting to you, as you know, you're not necessarily yet considered in the top tier of candidates in terms of name recognition and national reach. You would be in a pack with others who are new to federal politics. With that challenge with name recognition and the perceived advantage that some of the front runners have already in terms of delegate selection and awareness and the like, how do you win?
You win by making sure that people do know who you are. And that's exactly, this is the start of it, obviously. In Newfoundland, I'm on the most popular radio program with the one and only Tim Powers.
Oh my God, pandering. Wow, okay, that's going to, you probably lost 100 votes there, Scott.
No, it's true, though. You got to crisscross the country, and you got to reach out to Canadians. I'm one of those guys that's always on the phone talking to people. I mean, this is what small-town mayors do. They build coalitions, they build bridges, they talk to people, and they don't just talk at people, they listen and engage. And so I've been calling, EDA presidents across the country, candidates of records that maybe lost an election. I'm always surprised at the number of people that I call that are blown away that I'm calling them directly. And so, that's lovely. Thank you for calling. And we have a good conversation. I'm in the car an awful lot, so it's a good time to make phone calls. But I'm going to crisscross the country. We're going to have an amazing, social media platform. We're just going to build, and more Canadians will know who I am. And I'm confident that my message and my tone and my style is going to resonate with Canadians, and they're going to take notice. And that's how we win. We get out there and do the hard work and hustle.
Now, as I say, just before I let you go, one of the unique things you've been trying to move through Parliament through, I believe, the private member's bill process is a bill on bereavement leave. Where is that and how is that progressing?
We got it done, actually. Really proud of that. That's an example of Seamus and I working together. So, just quickly, Tom Kimmich, who's a member of Parliament, Conservative member of Parliament from Calgary, he and his wife lost their baby girl at 38 days, and he wanted to pay tribute to her and provide some more leave time for parents who lose a child. Because, of course, it didn't really exist. You would have to use maybe some maternity leave and that kind of thing. It was a really beautiful bill. It was a private member's bill. It got passed by the House and was in the Senate. It got unanimous support in the House. And it was in the Senate, but then, of course, Trudeau called the election, and then it died on the order paper. And so Tom was like number 200 and something on the list of private members' bills. And I said to him, you know what? C4, which is, the paid sick leave legislation the government proposed, I said that might be a great opportunity for us to try to get your bereavement bill attached and, move forward. And Tom thought I was, he said, well, thanks for that, but that's crazy. That's never going to work. But I just went across, I literally, from that moment, I got up and I walked across the floor of the House of Commons and sat down beside Seamus. And I said, Seamus, I said, your 10 days paid sick leave is a lovely little thing, but, it's a lot of tokenism because really, federally regulated workers already have, in the most cases, pretty good programs, right? So let's do something really positive. Let's add Kimmich's private members bill to this and see what we can do. And he just looked at me with a funny look, and he said, that's a really neat idea. He said, I don't know if we can do it or not, but we should try it. That's a great idea. And so a week later, after much wrangling back and forth and, a little hiccup with the spin doctors and the PMO, we got it done. Unanimous consent. Tom Kimmich was so moved, and he said to me, I sat down, and he said, you did today? I said, I think we got some good work done today. And he goes, no, you actually got an opposition member's private member's bill attached to a piece of government legislation. My staff are doing the research, but we're pretty confident that's never been done in this place before. And I said, well, it helps just to be a small town mayor and not really know how it works and just try to come up with good ideas, I guess. But that's an example of what you can do. And that's two good guys just sort of saying, hey, I know you're a Liberal, I'm a Conservative, but this is a good thing for Canadians. Let's do it. And we did it.
All right. Well, we'll leave it there. Good luck to you. I'm sure the people of Newfoundland will look forward to meeting you when you make your way out. Appreciate the time today, Scott Aitchison, here on VOCM's Open Line.